Good day, my friends. It is your humble host, Ray over at CigarClimatology, back for another quick cigar review. I've neglected my YouTube channel somewhat. I have been extremely busy on a project management project that I'm involved in, a rather large commercial building, so I've kind of been off my channel and away from my cigar friends for quite some time. Also, 18 has been a bit of a rocky year for me so far. It started with a couple of back-to-back colds, and then the flu. We just had kind of a horrendous flu bug go through and get a lot of people on my team sick, and that included myself and my wife. And well, as we go into the review a little bit, I'll go into the continued tale of woe. But anyway, today, and you can see I've already started, is a perennial favorite of mine, and this is the Diplomaticos #1. I do not have the box date because actually I disposed of the box from these cigars quite some time ago. What I ended up doing is lumping a bunch of them together and moving them into an old SLR Lonsdale cab just to save some room. Sometimes I'll open up several boxes of the same type of cigar at a time to kind of sample back and forth. Excuse me. These are all from 01. And I'll get a couple of stills of it, of course, for you to look at a little bit more closely. But this has always been one of my favorite cigars, or has been for at least the past decade, if not longer. Again, these are 01, so they've got several years of age on them. I've had these cigars for a very, very long time. They're beautifully made. The wrapper has, well, not completely, but a semi-brindle look to it. They're finished very, very nicely with a slight box press. And typically, because they're 01 cigars, they have a moderately stiff draw. You're not here for the first lighting of the cigar. Well, the fact is that with exception of the cigar that I smoked yesterday, El Rey del Mundo Elegantes, I really haven't been smoking. I've been too sick, and the last time I lit up a cigar, I ended up with, just like I said, back-to-back colds. I think it was coincidence, but it gave me an immediate sore throat and got me back into coughing, etc., etc. So I've just had some time off from cigars. To get more in the specifics about this guy is, unfortunately, so far, I'm actually a little disappointed. This guy's a little bit on the mild side compared to my experience with this cigar. Again, I've smoked many boxes of these, and still have quite a few left. It's just always been a favorite. But this particular sample, especially with my palate being so fresh, I mean, I smoked a cigar yesterday, but it's not like I have been smoking a cigar a day every day, which could sometimes be my habit depending upon where I'm at any one given time. Unfortunately, my new site is a non-smoking zone, so the most I'm going to be able to get away with there is maybe sneaking out and picking up a Partagas Chicos now and again while I'm out wandering around outside the building. But again, to get back to this cigar, the taste is a tad astringent, and a bit acidic, and mostly a taste of leather. There's really not a heck of a lot of depth of flavor here. There's not a lot of the floral notes and a lot of the nuance that I typically expect out of this cigar. Like I said, between you and me, for not having smoked that much in about the past 2 months, it's kind of a disappointment. I mean, I really thought when I was reaching into this box to grab one of these cigars that what I was going to do is I was actually just going to grab a real top shelf cigar and I was going to sit and savor this thing and just get all kinds of kicks out of it. But unfortunately, that's not the case. I did start this cigar out in the backyard, but since my wife's on the phone with her sister, I thought, what the heck, I'll flip the video camera on and maybe we'll throw this into a review. Probably on the brief side because of how much time I have. Now, since I do share some of my personal stories of love and hate here on YouTube, I'll probably again be off my channel for a little period of time. I had another MRI on my back. It's now about a week ago. Suddenly it's been discovered that one of my discs is slid into my spinal cord, and so I've got a little bit of paralysis in one of my legs. It's kind of a bummer. No, I can walk around, you know, everything's fine that way, but I just overnight seem to have lost about 50% of the strength in my left leg. Since I already have a neurosurgeon, based on the fact that I've got a number of vertebrae fused in my neck, his first question to me was, who's prescribing you your pain medication? Because he was actually really surprised I was walking. Anyway, so looks like next week I'm back under the surgeon's knife, and he's going to go in there and he's going to clip out a little bit of this disc fragment. Hopefully it doesn't really go any deeper than that. So, you know, with any luck, maybe, you know, maybe next week or the week after, I might be able to tune back in and let you know my tale of woe. But that's what's kind of been going on with my life. Because I've been so busy, there hasn't been really a whole lot of humidor progress. Luckily for me, my projects just kind of hum along. You can see by my attire, it's a, you know, terribly unclimatic day over here on Isla Pigfish. It is a freezing cold 64 degrees in the shop. So, you know me, I'm not used to the sub-70 weather, so I'm kind of bundled up. My hearts go out to you guys living in the Arctic and subarctic regions, otherwise known as the rest of the world. But Isla Pigfish is usually has pretty moderate climate for the most part. Back to the cigar. As you can see, I'm using a 3-draw technique on this. I'm actually trying to milk some flavor out of the cigar without really heating it up. The cigar's a little soft here, but you can see I can get my fingers really, literally right up close to the ash, so I'm not overheating it. That's one of the joys of a drier and more firmly packed cigar, is that even if they are relatively stiff drawing and you really go after a cigar like this, it doesn't really tend to totally turn to mush. It's a little soft down here, but you can get away with drawing on them more than just your typical loose drawing and straw type cigars. That what happens, you start to go after it, it tunnels, it starts to do weird things, it starts to burn down the side, etc. You can see my burn's pretty good, but I mean, I hate to say it, this is, as a lot of you guys know, one of my favorites. And at this point in time, it's just not really blowing up my skirt. Now, the smoke off the foot is a bit of a tad pinch on the nose. The retro's good. A little sting, literally. No real hints of sweet. Looks like I ashed by accident. No really hints of sweet. Usually these are more oaty. Definitely a tad of of honey or another sweetening agent. A lot more subtle nuance. I can usually get a lot of good oaty flavors and more complexity out of these cigars, but I don't know, maybe they just forgot to put some parts into this one. Anyway, we're a couple of inches into it. As you can see, it's now down to about a Corona size. I'm going to slip back out, see where my wife's at in her chat, and I'll be back to give you a little bit more update. We'll try to keep this review kind of brief. Hopefully it turns the corner for me, because I'm kind of getting bored with it. Life's too short to smoke a boring cigar. Anyway, see you in the next segment. Thanks for tuning in. Alright, so it's now slid down to a whopping 63 degrees, so to be honest with you, it's getting a little chilly out here for my taste. But with all kidding aside, let's get back to the cigar. We've taken the Diplomatico number 1, this is the 2001 Diplomaticos number 1, down to about the last third. To be honest with you folks, I'm highly disappointed. I thought, well, what the heck, I might kind of be limited in my smoking next week as I'm kind of leading up to trying to button up a bunch of stuff in my project and make my way to the operating table. It's really a disappointment for what, you know, might be my last cigar for a couple of weeks. So let's talk a little bit about cigar philosophy and some beliefs, because this video I think is going to be relatively short when we sum up this cigar. I've gotten a bit more of an oudie taste, some really subtle tones of what the cigar should be, what they've always been in the past, but now we're going to get into some core philosophies here about cigars. So maybe it was a good reason that I pulled this, just to talk a little bit about that. A lot of you guys out there in YouTube land, if you're watching, you're probably turning around and saying, oh, wow, better smoke up those cigars, they're over the hill. Well, look, I don't believe in that. That's horsepucky. This cigar is an individual. You know, it's no different than my neighbor or his brother that lives next door. They might be related to each other. They might have some similarities, but they're two individual people. And this cigar is a complete individual to every other cigar that's put in that box. There's going to be some similarities in that, you know, maybe they were even rolled on the same day, maybe even by the same roller, but I highly doubt it. Maybe on the same day, same big bundles of tobacco, but look, it's not the age, and it's not this downward trend, in my opinion, that has dragged this cigar down to mediocrity. This is a construction issue, or perhaps even an issue where someone had assumed that some part of the plant was, you know, Ligero or you know, or Seco, or one of the more pungent leaves, and inserted it into this cigar, or maybe a bunch of cigars like it, assuming that it had a certain level of flavors and of pungent, certain level of pungent nature, and it just didn't happen. So either the tobacco itself was you know, sorted and tagged incorrectly, was perhaps subgrade tobacco, or, you know, even because rollers don't want to get into trouble, they might run out of a certain ingredient and continue to roll anyway. So I'm going to chalk this one up to construction issues. I got a little bit of that oudie flavor, like I said, that I'm used to. The leathery taste is still there, but to be perfectly frank, this isn't much better than your typical Dominican cigar. It's too bad too, because the cigar was beautiful. It was finished nicely. It's still extremely stout here. I mean, I'm putting a lot of pressure on my fingers. I cannot mash the unheated portion of this cigar. It's really well made from a strictly physical construction perspective, but there's something missing out of its guts. It just does not have the heart and soul of what a Cuban cigar of this vintage should have. and thusly it does not have the taste and flavor that this cigar should have. Sick periods, blah blah blah. Another thing that I dismiss. Nah, this cigar wasn't great a year ago, and then suddenly is sick this year, and then next year, if I would have pulled it out, would have been suddenly some phenomenal cigar again. I'm sorry, my money's on. I could have pulled this cigar out of the box 15 years ago and smoked it, and it would have been crap. And I pulled it out of the box today, I smoked it, and it's basically crap. So crap might be a little bit harsh. I'm going to put this in the below average category because it didn't satisfy me. Unfortunately, I guess far below. It's a big disappointment for me. And any of you guys know that watch and follow my cigar exploits know that I love 42 ring cigars. I love Cervantes and I love Dahlias. And I love Diplomaticos, again, as long as they're the 42 ring or even the number 5s when they existed. I generally love these cigars. I would buy another box of these, except they're so darned expensive these days. Again, in a heartbeat. It has not turned me off to this cigar. It's not put me in panic mode that I need to go in there and suddenly smoke through the rest of the box because they're all over the hill now, or now I got to trade them off or something like that, blah, blah, blah. Don't buy into it. Don't buy into the sick periods. Don't buy into the over the hill periods. Whatever. You guys believe what you want, but I don't believe it. Whoops. So for me, in most cases, I'd like to try and get the most out of a cigar. I'd probably sit here and smoke at least another inch out of it. But, like I said, there's no really much point in me sitting out here where it's relative, and smoking this thing anymore. So it's on its way to the trash can. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you stopping in and saying hi. And I hope to see you soon. Maybe in a few weeks if I have the time and get on the road to recovery kind of quickly. So thanks again for tuning in to CigarClimatology. Hello to all my friends out there at Cigar Czar and Friends of Habanos. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for liking the videos. Thanks for subscribing to the videos. Have a good one. You want to see it? Watch.